I'm not used to doing this, so how are you?
I'm doing great. Long time since we last met on the rooftop.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. Awesome.
We're having a fashion show coming up in the next few days, next month, I should say, in March.
Yes, yes. So I have one in March. I have one in March and I have one in May that are planned.
Okay. Could you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about the one happening in March?
The one in March is going to be in Les Cours Mont-Royal. We're going to be multiple designers. The environment is really beautiful. I got to. They gave me some awesome models. I'm just really lucky. I always get awesome models. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. And have you changed your design since last time we met at the rooftop?
Well, since we met at the rooftop, I did make some new designs. They got featured this summer in MadFest. So there was that. And I am working on some new designs this year. So, the show in March, you'll see some new designs. I'll still throw in some of the older ones, like some of the ones that were featured that are favorites.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'll like slowly phase in some new designs mixed with some from the past, the favorite ones from the past. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the one question I have is your designs have evolved obviously since you started. What were some of the design process that has evolved since you been creating your pieces of artwork in fashion?
So first of all, I didn't study fashion. So I'm kind of more like an artist, if you want. I did study interior design,
Oh,
so I
okay.
can say in that aspect, I am a designer in terms of that. But when it comes to when it comes to the fashion or clothing, the clothing aspect, I taught myself. But also my grandma on my mom's side was a fashion designer. She studied haute couture in New York in the 60s.
Oh, very cool. Kind of like
Yeah.
my family, we are mostly actors and musicians and artists. So behind me is one of my paintings that I figured just to throw in rather than a blank wall behind me.
That is, yeah, I'm so sorry that's what you got in the background because my studio's where some other people in the studio, so I'm not in my usual space. Yeah.
No worries. I'm just glad to talk to you. It almost didn't happen again tonight because of the snowstorm down here.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so it took a while to get home, but hey, we made it.
Nice.
When Thank you. So when you're looking at fashion, what is the difference between, say, Toronto and Montreal? Because when you look at American fashion, let's say for hip hop, for example, New York is black and white, and Los Angeles is more colorful and vibrant. Is that the same thing happening between Toronto and Montreal, or is there a sort of synergy between them?
Hmm. I still, well, Toronto's starting to get more colorful, I do find, and they're getting more adventurous in terms of fashion, just because you have so much multiculturalism that's bringing in all the different like styles and like fashion philosophies or dressing philosophies and so yes, Toronto is picking up. Montreal is still a bit like more the artsy, the art. It's still like in Montreal we're known for being saturated with artists. So in that terms, because we've been doing it more like longer, I feel that we still have an edge. We're more daring, we're wilder, and I find Toronto is still a bit more conservative. Although people are starting to get adventurous, Montreal is wild compared to Toronto. But funny enough, like people on the street might not like. It depends on the people you'll find. In general, the average population is not as daring. It's the few weirdos, if you want to speak, or the few artists or adventurous rebel spirits who really will put on the sauce.
Oh, when you say the sauce, are you talking about the full colors, like the whole tapestry, the different type of
Yes,
fabrics, the
yes,
avant-garde look?
exactly. And you'll find more artists will put on all that sauce. Yeah.
Right. Kind of when I went to art school at OCAD, Ontario College of Art and Design, people used to look at us really strange, especially in the community. We were really fashion forward.
See, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So the one thing that a lot of people are talking about is fashion and how people one month is one design, then next month another thing. How are fashion designers trying to build a more sustainable fashion industry where the clothes become more versatile? Has this come up in your conversation with other designers?
Hmm. Uh, I'd say I've seen it more in the more artsy community, because if you go more towards the more traditional fashion community, there's still that kind of competition or that like notion that you have to do this, you have to be that, and like looks are everything. So at least from my experience, I'm not seeing it that much, but it depends on the community. It's always all about community.
Right.
So some communities of designers are really conscious, like for me, I love recycling. Even though most of the designs you'll see are not that recycled, they still have this thing where I hate to waste the fabric. So even just because I'm self-taught, like one of the challenges I throw in is to see how I can get the most out of the piece of fabric without wasting it. And even still, like I do recuperate my little pieces and I'll use it for jewelry or I'm saving them for projects. So yeah, but
Right.
I find myself designing to lose less of the fabric. It's a little challenge I throw in for myself.
I noticed,
Yeah.
but I love your designs. I was once watching a fashion show while I was in Europe, and one designer, I don't know if you remember tape cassettes, but they had all that plastic and people didn't know what to do with it. So
Yes,
one fashion designer actually started to weave it together and make fabric out of it.
I
And
did
I thought that was
see
fantastic. I don't know if
that.
you saw that.
Yes, I did because it was wow. Yeah, because it's funny because I do remember cassettes, when you had to like
Right.
wheel it when the machine wasn't working, you had to put it on a pencil and like wheel it around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are the days. And now we don't even have DVDs. Young people go, why buy it? Just download it.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the hot topics that when I was in design school was taking things that were ready available, and we were invited to design clothes, but with aluminum. So people used aluminum cans and just hammered it together and welded it. And that made a fantastic show. But
I'll be honest, I even though I'm doing what you see me doing, I really miss the aspect of recycling. I love it because in order to turn something regular into something like beautiful, you really have to use your brain and challenge your mind to put it together so it doesn't just look like a plain old, like you just took a bunch of cans and you threw them together. It has to be spectacular. It has to be appealing and like you have to put love into it and your brain into it. I really honestly do miss it. And I have been working, like I changed my studio space, we changed members, and one of my members is very conscious too that way, and it's a blessing because it's pushing me to want to do it again. So actually, I have like computer pieces. I've been gathering pieces here and there, like old computer cords or whatever, and I have some stuff I want to make. So thank you so much for that question. This is going to bring me back to doing it.
right. It's just one of the art challenges that I had back in my day. And so I figured, hey, just throw a piece of things that OCAD tried to promote with all the design students. My background's advertising design, but they invited all designers to take a chance and just go and do a show, just one main piece. So it's a little bit old school, I know, but hey, it's
No,
always
I,
about
I'm
recycling.
I'm making faces because I wish I had the reason to do it. Part of the reason I don't do it is just because I don't want to just make it. It's just going to sit there. I'd
Right.
like it to, I'd like it to either be an exhibit or something, have a reason. I mean, I could do like I could do some fashion shows and stuff. And actually, you know what? You're actually pushing me towards doing it. So thank you for this question.
Okay. I don't mean to put you out of your safety zone. I just always like to do something that most people don't want to bring up. And I
Yeah, I
like to
used
be
to do
fresh.
it. Yeah, I used to do it. Like actually my early days, when I was only making jewelry, I did a lot of recycling. So I mean, I even used like bags and turned them into necklaces, like the handles is like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so back to the questions. What do you see happening with the future of design with so many new innovative fabrics? Like there's so many fabrics, they act differently, they feel differently, the texture's different.
I would love to get my hands on those. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
You
yeah.
had to come to Queen Street West to the fashion district.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, that's where all the fabrics are. It's where I grew up in my Ontario College of Art years, going through different design shops, going to galleries, going to all these places. But Queen Street's has evolved so much over the time, and now big corporations are trying to kick out the artists. So just the way it is.
It's always like that. I'm just hoping that, like, as a fellow artist, the community gets protected because the general public who isn't as creative or artistic, you know, while they're like, oh, money, money, and function regularly, um, art makes the world turn around. It gives them the joy. That's why they'll go to museums. That's why they'll turn on the TV. We make them go, wow. We instead of just we stimulate their heart instead of just their brain. So
Mm-hmm.
artists need to be protected more.
Inspired you really to become a designer? Like you talked about your grandmother being a designer back in the 1960s. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Well, I've always been artistic as a kid. I've always been artistic, and I like to teach myself things. I just like to keep busy. And one day I had jewelry that broke, and I decided to fix it. And I was working as a florist at the time, and I couldn't fix it, but I put two broken pieces together, and people loved it. And I said, "Oh, well, I love that process, and people like it. I'm going to keep doing it." I kept doing it. Then I found out people were making it business or living off of it, or at least, supplementary income. For me, it was therapeutic at the same time. It's art.
Mhm.
And then one day, like later on, I finished interior design. Yeah, I just finished my interior design course, and but I was still making jewelry. And someone challenged me to make jewelry with fabric, and I liked the process, and it came out nice, and she loved it,
Right.
and other people loved it, and then I had all this fabric, and I'm like, I've always dreamed of, like, well, when my grandma was alive, I grew up with my grandma, and I always used to draw. Funny enough, I always used to draw dresses and show her what fabrics I liked and the style, and say, could you make this for me? And she made my grad dress. She made like lots of clothes for me, and so I remembered that, and then my imagination came online. I was like, what could I do with all this fabric? I was like, I started seeing ideas that I could do. I didn't know how to sew. And then one day, in between all of this process, I was in a business program, and they offered extra fabric, and it was a competition. I said, I have nothing to lose. Let me just try and make a garment just because, why not? And I made something. It was partially glued and partially sewed, but it looked really good. And I put some jewelry on it too, and some beading, and I won second place.
Oh,
And
wow,
then,
incredible.
yeah, so I posted on Facebook, and a friend who was doing a fashion show later on was like, why don't you make a collection? I didn't know how to sew. I said, okay, well, there's a challenge. There's a challenge. I said, I know people who know how to sew. I'll ask them to help me. It got down to the day before the fashion show. The help backed out, and I had lots of fabric glue and lots of pins, and I did my best, and I put some outfits together, and I went to the fashion show with pins and glue and duct tape, and people still liked it. So I said, okay, well, I really loved it, and the rest is history.
Wow, you answer one of my questions. I was going to say, what was your first fashion show like? But pins, glue, probably some duct tape in there too in some parts.
Definitely duct tape, because some of the models who see me now, they're like, hey, remember the duct tape? Because now I sew, I learned taught myself to sew, but yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So,
Yeah.
will there be a storefront or an online website where people can say, hey, I was at your fashion show, or hey, I saw it online. Can I order it? Will that be happening?
Yes. It's a goal of mine this year. I'm trying to get out of the just the artist creative thing and put on the business hat. So I'm working on that, because really it's not sustainable just to be a creative, and I love what I'm doing and I'd love to live from it,
Right.
like that to be my main source of what I live off. And so I've been looking into how I can do that. So this year, actually, there's a good question. This year, this is my goal. So based on designs that I've done in the past, I want to do a more prêt-à-porter or ready-to-wear collection based on what you've seen in the past. And also I will be making new things. So yeah, with lots of support and
Oh, you got my support.
advice. Thank you. Yeah, so lots of support and advice. I will get that going this year.
Right. Will it be in Montreal or Toronto if you could choose, or would you do both?
It's both. Yeah, I really, I really do love Toronto. I actually even consider, I was like, I could see myself moving there, but sorry, that's another story. But yeah, I'd love to do both in Montreal and
Yeah,
Toronto.
I love Montreal because it has this vibe where artists are more free. They're not constrained. And Toronto has a vibe, but it's a very small community. And everybody knows everybody in the art world. I found that out very quickly when I was going from advertising to advertising house.
Here too, like, I mean, community, it's this how it is in communities, especially if Toronto, Montreal's smaller than Toronto. So can you imagine? I mean,
I can
even
imagine.
but there are so many creatives that I think maybe Toronto, the community is smaller, because I find here there's so many creative people that you can't get to know everyone, versus maybe in Toronto, it's a bit, they're less, so people would know each other more.
Right. Can you give
Mhm.
me a hint of what would you be bringing to these stores or online? Like some of your garments, is some of them that I've seen before, like some of the man's garments. I remember this one that was red and black and striped. I have to show the
Oh,
viewers later.
that one, I know which one. People love that one.
Yeah.
The challenge I face a bit with what I do is that the fabrics are limited. Uh, like so I mean, I still can do limited collections,
Right.
uh, or adapt the design. And since it's a philosophy or a way of going about designing the garment, it's to maintain the spirit of that philosophy and apply it to another fabric,
Mm,
or give it
another
a,
fabric.
yeah, yeah.
I would try
Mhm.
it with gold and black. That'd be phenomenal. But that's
Oh
just my idea.
my
I
God, that would be so good. Oh my goodness, I just pictured it. Oh,
yeah.
thank you. You're really inspiring. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's my art
Wow.
side, so I have a huge advantage with OCAD. My teachers always pushed me to my limit. I had German teachers with Bauhaus principle, where design can change as long as it can be adapted. It becomes multi-purpose. So,
Exactly.
what advice would you give to young people in terms of, say, oh, I saw her design, I'm going to become a fashion designer? What are some of the challenges that they need to know before they get their feet wet?
Hmm. One big blockage that I find myself talking to people who are like, "Oh, I'd love to do it," and they're like, "Oh, I would love to," but they seem like it's so far, far, far away. I would definitely say, look, maybe you don't have all the things you think you need. it doesn't matter. Just start. Just do it. Just try and do it. I didn't know how to sew. I didn't even know how to sew, and I
Wow.
still did it. I mean, it took the time. It took time, and I guess putting yourself out there without fear, and
Right.
not to be too hard on yourself, and you're gonna have to be able to or be willing to have a thick skin and like some people are gonna be there to laugh at you, so be it. Some people are there's always gonna be people who are gonna criticize, and at the end of the day, if you really want to do it for yourself, not for fame or to be fancy or not for fame or to get praise or but you really it's just because your soul needs to do it, just do it. People are always going to say something, and at the end of the day you need to please yourself more, so and you'll find people who will align with you.
Perfect. Because I know there's a lot of people saying, I want to do it, but I don't have the support. I don't have people that believe me. My father disowned me. All those fun things that people get told. I just say, don't listen to the negativity. Just believe in yourself and have the courage and talk about it.
Exactly. I mean, I feel if the universe put it in your body and your soul and in your heart, it's because it needs to happen. The universe wants it to be born, so that's it.
All right. Is there anything that we missed in our conversation? Because I know you have a lot to do.
Ooh, um, just really please keep posted and thank you for keep following. I really appreciate your support, and um, I welcome people to challenge me to create. I love being challenged creatively.
All right. So
So
we had to do this again because I'm going to present more challenges to you and I'll
perfect.
find more interesting ideas because I,
Awesome.
I'm just one of these people that like to give free advice and people go, you should be getting paid to be an advisor. But I say it's a gift. And
It's probably it. Yeah.
yeah. So for people that are watching, do you have a website yet built?
I'm working on that. So like I was saying, please people be patient with me. If you're willing to help me too, if you want to join in the adventure and we can work together and exchange in some way, hey, bring it on.
All right.
I really am working on the website. It's almost done. I just need to get it hosted, and I'm trying to work on that, like on that store thing, actually, the online store.
It's tricky. It's not easy. You need people to help out, especially with coding, I like to say, and the security gateways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All of
I'm
that.
talking in a language, but hey. All right, so March the 8th is the one show in Montreal, and I believe it's called Node, correct?
That is correct. It's
All
with
right.
the social media influencer network. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
And, and the
Uh,
one in May, is that back in Toronto?
no, the one in May. So for now, they're both in
Okay.
Montreal.
Okay.
So the first one is for Women's International Day, May 8th. And the second one, I'm actually doing a benefit for ovarian cancer.
Oh, that's a good cause. You
Yeah, we're
didn't bring
raising
that up. I
funds.
missed something that was so important, being part
Oh,
of an
sorry.
organization. Oh, thank you so much. I'll put the stuff together again and I'll hopefully get the article up and I'll share it with you and we can make changes and things and we'll go for it. I look forward to seeing what happens next and Montreal will be a blast.
Oh yeah, yay. And I'm hoping to come to Toronto soon too.
All right.
Thank
Well, let me know and
you.
keep us in a loop. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's been hard and we faced many challenges, but I think it was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you as
you.
well. Thank you.
All right.